All right. With me today is George Patrick. He is a 19-year veteran plus in real estate. He's a real estate entrepreneur, not just a real estate agent. You're going to find out what that means. And George being a wannabe rock and roll star and how that helped him launch his business into real estate. Welcome, George.
Thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, this is great. It's been a long time trying to get you on this show. So let's talk briefly. What right now in your real estate business, and I didn't ask you this before intentionally because I want to get you to think. What's the one word you would describe your real estate life right now?
Dynamic.
Dynamic. Okay, good. And is that actually a consistent term in this business?
Yeah, I would say it is. I have a saying that I like to tell clients that it's a new market every 6 months.
That's right.
And I say that's held true for 19 years so far.
Yeah.
So
Now you've been in this business again 19 years. You've been through ups and downs in this market quite a few times, enough times to know that the next one's coming, like you said, in 6 months.
yeah.
So when you first started out and you had that musician in you that you were on experience talking to people, how did that help you in your business at the start?
Yeah, I think at the start before the internet with regards to what was happening with real estate, not quite, but almost. And to this day, I mean, it is still a people business and you are going to be with people and talking to people and with people at some point. That's just part of it. So the performance side, the music kind of career side just gave me some skills to talk to people that I didn't know, talk to strangers and whatnot, and be comfortable with that. And that's just part of what we do. Is we're working with new people all the time that we don't know personally. We need to get to know.
And you did the dreaded task of actually making cold calls.
Yeah,
Started
yeah,
out.
quite a lot actually early on.
Yeah. And how successful was that?
Well, I can get pretty granular on that because coming out of the great financial crisis, I've got a spreadsheet nerd side of me. And I tracked my calls, my hours spent. And after having a year, 2 years of data, I was able to determine that I actually made at that point in time just over $2,000 an hour when I was calling expired listings at that time.
That's
Now, that's over the course of a long time because after 2, 4, 6, 8 months, whatever. But in doing that particular task with that particular group at that time, over a course of a long period of time, that's what I determined was the income from that activity.
so knowing that outstanding number, how quick were you to leverage other people to get rid of the menial tasks? And
Very, very quickly, I would say so I got licensed in 2006. I'm sorry, I actually got licensed in 2005. I told you 19 years. I guess from a license standpoint, it's been about 20, but was independent on my own as an agent 19 years ago. And I probably had someone helping me within a year.
Right.
It's hard to recall exactly. And since then I've had at least one assistant in some capacity my entire career.
That's fantastic. And that is such a hump for so many people to get over. They never get over it. They never want to leverage that.
Yeah.
I think you doing the math and looking at what that productive time actually made is probably, I don't know, the smartest thing, but it's very smart.
It was very telling. I mean, it was very telling. I mean, that's a pretty extraordinary figure. Of course, the hard part is to sit there for 8 hours a day, do that, which is not really sustainable. I mean, just make that kind of number, but you can sit down and do that here and there to lead to that.
So time evolved. You moved to North Carolina at some point. And how did you transition from having a sphere of influence in people and where were you? Chicago?
Chicago. Yeah.
So, to North Carolina.
Yeah, that was it. It worked out about as good as it could. I will say this. I mean, I remained licensed in Illinois for a couple of years after moving here and was actually selling things in Illinois for a little while there after moving. But it did take, I mean, even I think we mentioned earlier, it does take a couple of years to build real estate sales into a business. And so same thing as before. I mean, I actually knocked doors early on after moving here. I knocked almost 500 doors.
You did
Um,
all the dreaded
yeah,
tasks.
yeah. And that was really as much a mental sort of thing to push myself and just say, "Hey, I've relocated. I'm in a new market. I need to really just put the hard work into going out and being face to face with people." That generated a few sales over the years, not many, but it was kind of an exercise for me to just jump in and say, let's get out and really work and get things going. And so a couple of years, and of course, the market here was rebounding from the GFC as well, and that timing wise was good. So
Yeah. And so you started real estate doing transactions. At what point did you become a true entrepreneur, not just a real estate agent with your book of business? You became an entrepreneur. And I'd like you to define that. So that was your word.
yeah, and the average real estate agent is an entrepreneur just by that measure. I mean, you are running your own business. And I think a lot of people don't really think of it that way, but that's really what it is. I mean, you are running a business, even if you're the only person in it. It is a business as opposed to a job where you work for someone else. But I use the term now because I spend a significant amount of time involved in investment property that my wife and I own and manage, and enough time that I can't really say, oh, I've got a couple rental properties over here that I deal with on occasion, but I'm in real estate sales. It has the last 5 years, give or take, moved to where at times they've been 50-50 in terms of my time invested in each. And so I no longer tell people I'm a real estate agent. I say I'm a real estate entrepreneur because really I am an agent and an investor and very interested in the investment part of real estate as well. So
How'd you make that transition, or how'd you add that on to everything else you were doing? What triggered that?
So early on in my career, I was an assistant to a pretty high up, a top agent in Chicago, and he owned investment property, and I managed his properties actually to some extent, not all of it, but some of it. And so, I mean, I got very familiar with credit checks and showing rentals and leases, and the credit checks are very telling. The people with bad credit checks actually didn't pay their rent sometime. It's amazing, stuff like that. So I learned some of the operations and I saw what he was doing and kind of how that operated, but I didn't do much in Chicago. It wasn't really till relocating here where we kind of got into that and connected with the local real estate investor community here. There are several big groups that are still ongoing that you can become a member of, and met a lot of people there and got to know the market. It's a very different market here than Chicago in terms of investment property. Chicago has thousands of these 2 to 4 flats, and there just aren't that many smaller rental properties here. They're here, but it's a different group of properties. But figured out a way to buy properties in very bad condition, renovate them, refinance them, rent them out, the quote unquote BRRRR method, if your listeners or viewers are familiar with that. And that worked very well prior to these pesky interest rates going up in 2022. And so that was kind of our model for a little while. And from that, we also did some small subdivisions on some of our properties. These are all kind of urban infill properties in Raleigh and Durham, and learned some things along the way. Still learning, always learning.
So
Yeah.
for those who may not, what's given the BRRRR, what that means?
Yeah. So buy, renovate, refinance, rent, repeat, depending on which order you want to put those R's in.
Right, right, right.
Something like that. And again, before the rates went up here, going back a few years, and the prices, you could do that and you could finance a property on a normal 15 or 30-year loan, and it would cash flow from day one. And you could sometimes put very little of your own money into it. It was pretty amazing, just depending on what you paid and what it came out at and all that kind of stuff. That's become very difficult, both due to interest rates and prices going up, and also the community people that flip houses, that renovate them and just resell them. They don't need to have them make sense from a rental standpoint, so they can just buy them for whatever if they're going to make some profit on it. And so that's been hard to compete with. So again, new market every 6 months. It's always changing. It'll change again and probably become a little easier than it has been the last couple of years.
What's one of the weirdest things you've seen in all these showing homes and being in homes?
Oh, wow. Let me think here. Well, I've got one property I sold. It's a little bit of a dark story, so I don't want to go there, but I sold a property where someone had been murdered, and I didn't actually know that had happened until after I had listed the property for sale, and someone kindly informed me about what was actually going on in that property, had gone on rather. And so that was pretty interesting. But we did sell it, and I heard from quite a few neighbors afterwards that knew what had gone on there and were surprised or whatnot about what had taken place. So that was a pretty interesting one.
Yeah. I had a similar situation. There was a kidnapping, and they were held ransom in the home. I had no idea about that because I look at the nuts and bolts, the location, the address, where they are, the
Yeah.
house. I never thought of doing a background check like yourself to see
Yeah.
what's online, what
Yeah.
history. So you've been doing this for a long time. What would you say is the mindset that you have that's the most powerful piece of your mindset that has allowed you to go from cold calling to now you got a couple of very viable businesses going on?
I would say without a doubt, it is just persistency, just working on the business daily. If I'm not on vacation or it's a holiday, family scenarios and whatnot notwithstanding, I've got kids now, and that adds quite an element to your life and your plans, your schedule. But outside of that stuff, I mean, I am in the office. I don't work from home. That works for some people. I find that I need and want to go to an office to work, and that's what I'm there to do, is to work. And there are no distractions, whether it's a pet or a family member in and out or whatever it might be. Just doing that very consistently and going to work as if it's more like a regular job where you kind of have to,
Yeah.
I think has been very helpful.
Yeah.
And just sticking with it.
That's the positive side of doing that, your mindset, getting up and going and doing it. Try to be perfect isn't the goal. It's being good enough to try to get to be perfect and just keep trying and trying, right?
Exactly.
As long as you're moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say? Oh, let me ask, was there ever a time when you were, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Or where there was a point where you're starting to question your direction?
Definitely. More than once, I'd say. In fact, prior to real estate, I was in IT before it was really IT. And I've wondered if I should have moved to California in 2002 and started working for Apple, but that didn't happen. Here we are. So yeah, early on, it was early in my career, the great financial crisis hit, and I was lucky that I didn't have kids at that time. I had low expenses, was able to navigate that market and get through it. And I mean, this is going to predate a fair number of viewers and listeners, I suppose, but you just can't understate the severity of the economic crisis. And it hit everybody from the lowest to the highest. I mean, there was a guy in Chicago, a developer, who was going to build the Chicago Spire, and it had been designed by, I believe, Santiago Calatrava. I think each floor rotated like 2 degrees as it went up. I mean, an extraordinary architectural design. And the guy that was going to build it, the general contractor, his house ended up being a short sale. I mean, this expensive big mansion in the Gold Coast in Chicago. And just to drive that point home, I mean, nobody was really safe from the economic fallout. And I will say that not overspending, not living in a bigger property and driving a fancier car and all that kind of stuff, when the market takes a left turn, that's advantageous. I think, again, as an entrepreneur, you're running a business, and it's not the same as working for someone, whether you're either employed or you're not. You have to be able to pivot when those things happen. And was a short-lived sort of pause on real estate and the economy. Of course, it then went in the other direction. But now I think we find market time's up, and I just checked the national inventory number that one of the Fed offices, I believe it is, publishes. That's over a million properties now. We're back over the inventory level that we were at just before COVID. And so, I've been showing properties all weekend, and everywhere I look, market times are 20, 40, 60, 100 days. I mean, it was just unthinkable even 2 years ago, 100-day market time.
And that's a 2008, 9, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are good numbers.
Yeah, exactly. They are. And that's the irony. I mean, I was taught that the normal market time was 120 days and 6 months of inventory. I mean, that was what you thought 20 years ago was a normal market. And we have not seen that in the Triangle area for a long time, for many years. So are we going back to that? I mean, that's hard to say, but we're certainly going in that direction right now. So
What would you suggest to somebody that's a few years in the business, they're struggling, they're grinding, and they're questioning their decision to be in this and to stay in this business? What would
yeah,
you don't?
it is a long-term career move. And I think you really just have to decide. Years ago, someone said to me, being a real estate agent is a lifestyle. And it's a little kind of funny to say, and I've got some friends, we joke about that sometimes, but to some extent, I mean, that's really true. I mean, it is not very similar to a normal job, whatever that is now, but it's a little bit of a lifestyle, and it is up and down. It is not consistent. I've had I mean, my best years in the business, I still had 2, 3 months during the year where I made 0 income. And we have expenses, so it isn't like you're at 0, you're at negative in
Yeah.
those months, and that is just the way it is, and that's hard to get used to, and I would say you really need to that person, you've got to expect some longer term time frame. The business does ebb and flow with the economy. I mean, when the economy is up and to the right and it's risk on and people are doing deals, then yeah, the deal flow is high and there are a lot of transactions. And when it's not, then it's not like that. And I think right now we've got a little bit of a fallout. We had a big boom right after COVID, and generally that's followed by not necessarily a bust, but a the other direction. And I think that's where sales transactions and volume are right now.
There's so many agents out there having their best year. Right?
Sure, absolutely. And so I to answer that question, you're just gonna have to be committed to it. Back to my point of working on it every day. If you're in that boat, this is not a point where you take off Friday at 1 o'clock to
Right.
play golf. Maybe you can play golf Sunday morning. I don't know, but or whatever you do, you need to be working at it consistently. And it is in some markets, it's a lot of work. You just got to work at it, keep at it.
Absolutely. Great advice for agents. One of the things I think that you figured out and you were taught by your mentor, or that gentleman that first got you into this business and was playing golf and making good money, you were able to dovetail your personal attributes into your business right from the beginning. And I think that's probably one of the biggest attributes that you put into being successful is you were you, and you weren't trying to do it somebody else's way.
Yeah.
So there must have been times when you were door knocking. How did you revert back to you doing it your way? Right? You had to do it that way. You understood that wasn't what you like to do. How did you get out from underneath that and start to be more comfortable and start doing business the way you wanted to do it?
Well, one of the things that I do, again, this comes back to you're running a business here. This is kind of an annual exercise for me, but at the end of every year, I look at every sale that I completed and what the source of that business is. And early on in your career, it's going to be a lot of different sources. And so, for example, when I first relocated to North Carolina, the first couple of years, it would have been maybe one sale was from a sign call, and maybe a couple of sales were from the company's lead systems, and maybe one was a referral. The broker might have referred me someone that she had to give to some agent to help me out because I was newer or something. I mean, it was just a combination. And then I fast forward 10 years on, and the bulk of my business is past clients. It's or referrals from those people. I mean, 80, 90% of it, right? I'm not accessing leads from the company lead system or whatever it might be. So it's changed over time. So to answer that question, I mean, early on, you need to have a lot of sources of business, and as you build and grow a book of business, if you stay in touch with your clients, which that's very important too, then that will start to kind of grow and snowball. So there's a long term event there.
Excellent. Great stuff. Viewer, please subscribe to the show. We'll get more great guests on like George. So George, 20 years in with the license, what would you tell yourself, knowing what you now, that day you decided to get into this business?
Buy more rental properties.
There you go.
You can't, with the rental properties, we didn't talk about that a whole lot, but with the rental investment property stuff, you can't go back in time. And at this age and this point in my career, you can always follow up with your database more, call your past clients, do more lunches, do more coffees. I mean, that's always there and can happen right now. But from the real estate investment side, and I'm really into what that can do for people from a wealth building standpoint. You can't go back in time to do that. And so I've got a few clients right now that are sort of on the fence on trying to make their first move. And I'm trying to just convince them you just got to do that. So that's more the investment property side of thing. The real estate sales business, it's a great business. It is one where you're going to have to work. I mean, that's just the way it is. There's times where it's a little bit easier, but there's times when it's harder, and you gotta realize it's something you gotta go to work on every day.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Thanks so much, George.
Absolutely. So happy to be here. I appreciate you.
If somebody wants to reach out to you for maybe they have a rental opportunity or they want to learn more, how's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/George Patrick Real Estate. You can message me there or post. That's really probably the best way. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can search George Patrick and you'll find me there too.
Fantastic. Thanks again, George. Appreciate your time.
You bet, Joe. Thank you.